faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe.
And good evening, viewers and followers of the Phoenix Podcast Show. It's my privilege and honor to have our guest tonight on this show and welcome Tofara Lindsay Chokera to the Phoenix Podcast Show with truly yours, Ken Sharpe. And it's our third season, episode 2. We're really excited to hear your story tonight, Tofara. Welcome.
Thank you, Ken. It is such an honor to be here. I always say if history was to determine our future, I wouldn't be here tonight.
Wow.
So I'm so excited and humbled. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that statement. And the Phoenix Podcast Show is all about these cases, like the Phoenix bird rises from the ashes.
Yes.
These cases of Zimbabweans who've risen from the ashes, come from nothing, humble backgrounds, and yet are reaching heights that only eagles with large wings could soar. So we're grateful to hear your story. And tell us a little bit about TofaraOnline Trust. It's a digital skills development and innovation consulting trust that empowers women, youths, SMEs to embrace the digital technologies, the digital skills, and the emerging technologies for business and career development. And that's really the future, because if we look at our economies of the world today, it's no longer a carbon economy. We're now in the data economy.
Exactly.
And I'm excited to hear what you're doing and why you got this started. So tell us your story.
Thank you, Ken. TofaraOnline Trust is a vision that was fueled by how I grew up. I was born and raised in Shishavane, and I grew up in a community where a girl child was raised to get married. It was a mining town, and we did not have access to career development, access to mentorship, or career coaching as we were growing up. And the schools that I went to were the schools in the high density communities where, yes, we would get the best education back then, but in terms of being guided on what to do after going to school, there was nothing. And I still remember in our community, when you got to around grade 7, some girls would get married at that age. And I thank God my mother was a single mom. She was a teacher, and she really knew the value of education. So what she would just tell us, we were 3 in our family, and I'm the last born, is life is what you make it. In as much as she struggled here and there to pay for our school fees, to put food on the table, but she knew exactly that education would be our liberating factor in our lives. So I grew up in that community. At Form 4, I really didn't know what to do after that, but I knew that there was something called A-level. I was very intelligent. I was an all-rounder in all subjects. But remember, because I grew up in this community where there was no access to career guidance, I didn't know what I was supposed to do in future. Maybe I was supposed to be a teacher, just like my mom. At some point, I wanted to be a bank teller because my mother would go with me to the bank every month, and I was attracted by the ladies,
Nicely dressed,
yes.
Speak well, looking professional.
Yes.
Hopefully being honest.
Yes. I then went to A-level, did subjects which had nothing to do with computers because the schools that I went to had no computers at all.
Nothing.
Not
one computer.
Not even phones.
Did they even know what a computer was?
Not really, because in our reception we had typewriters, and I still remember we had one student who came with a cell phone, and the whole school had to convene to see what a cell phone is. So imagine that kind of setup at school, and it was in the rural areas of Shurugwi at Tongogara High School. I saw a computer for the first time at 20 when I went to university. How I got to saw the computer at 20 was when we finished A-level. I had passed all my subjects very well, and I knew I wanted to go to university, but to do what? I didn't know. So when we got there, there were a number of people who were applying in the grounds, trying to see which subjects that they would select. So I heard that there was a new degree called Information Systems. And I had to ask them, what is it all about? And the person that I asked said, it's all about computers, you know. And I have never had or seen a computer before. But I told myself I'm going to make information systems my first priority when I'm applying for this. And I think my second priority was accounting, then management of business. I had to put 3. And guess what? I was selected for information systems.
It was preordained.
Yes, it was preordained. So that's how I did my degree in information systems at the Midland State University. And
That's in Gweru?
In Gweru,
So
yes.
you moved?
I had to move to Gweru as a student. My mother and my brother and sister were still in Shishavane.
And how was that? How was paying fees like? How was it being able to survive on your own, cope on your own as a young woman?
It was a struggle. There are certain things or experiences that we go through if you are being raised by a single mom, which I don't wish on anyone, because everything that you do, everything that you get is always a struggle. My mother would make sure that I have enough for the fees. The food was not that much. But because I had a good support system in terms of friends, they knew my background, they would chip in when it comes to food here and there. And because of also the focus that I had, I started plating people their hair at college just to get a few extra dollars to buy food. Yes, so that was my history. But it taught me to have focus in life. It taught me to understand what my mother was going through, and my objective throughout those years was to just make sure that I ease my mother's pain, and I have to change her story. That is why I had to work hard and get my degree without even thinking of getting married, like what was happening in my community.
So would you say you were very disciplined?
I was. I can confidently say that.
So tell the audience, speak into the camera then, tell the audience, how did you remain, you know, there's so many distractions, there's so many temptations, there's all kinds of different things that attract us in the flesh, and our attention gets taken away from our core focus. You know, how did you remain like that lioness that looks at her prey and goes after it and chases it until she either catches it or loses it?
Yes.
How did you stay disciplined?
So my main push or factor that made me stay focused was my mother. I wanted to change her story. I wanted to make sure that she's a happy woman once again. I would see her cry to her sleep. I would see her working day and night. She was a teacher, but she would also do some other small businesses just to keep the family go through the schooling and the food that we needed. But I wanted to at least make her happy. That is why I had to stay focused, understand why I was at college. Yes, we had so many parties. I wouldn't go to parties because I thought it would derail me or it would not make me focus on why I was at school. So my mother was my main priority. That is what made me stay focused. Yeah. So after university, I obtained my degree in information systems, like I said. Then I went on to do graduate traineeship at Shabani Mine. It was still in operational those days. But I did the graduate learnership in 6 months. Thank God for an opportunity that then led me to get a high-paying job at one of the biggest diamond mines here in Zimbabwe. That's when I went there to become an IT support engineer back then. The environment was quite good. I still remember the first thing that I did when I got my first salary was to buy my mother a decoder.
Wow.
And a dish.
Wow.
Because in our community, she was the only one who didn't have a decoder and a dish because she was focusing on us growing up and the fees. So I really had to change that, and I was so happy. And up to now, she never lacks anything.
So hopefully she's watching tonight.
Definitely, she
Thank
is.
you, Amai, for such a wonderful daughter.
Definitely, she is. So, in my IT career, I was working for a mine which was based in Zhishavane, in the rural areas of Zhishavane, called Majiwa. And this community was almost similar to the community that I grew up in as much as I had a high-paying job. We also would do some community projects where we would go to local schools to see how children are doing. And at some point we donated computers there. But looking at them and talking at those kids, you would realize that they are in a certain cocoon that I was in when I was growing up. I didn't know that there is a world beyond where we are. There is a world beyond, the internet. Just getting into the internet, you are tapping into another world, which most of these kids didn't know would exist. So I started having a passion of saying, okay, if I am to have a successful career, to me, my successful career would mean that changing the lives of these young people, helping them to know and understand what computers are and visit a certain world while they are in the rural areas, so that they understand that there are so many other opportunities out there which can change their lives. So I really managed to start my passion in training and coaching young people to learn technology when I was still employed. Yeah. But, when you are employed, sometimes you ask yourself whether it is the ultimate goal that you want to be employed. And at that moment, I was now staying away from my family because we were working shifts. Was it the rightful thing for me to pursue for maybe the next 10, 20 years?
Yeah.
Right. So I just told myself, I think I do have a passion for empowering women and youths to adopt technology. Why don't I set up something that is in line with that area? So that is when I started to look at opportunities on how I can grow my career. Remember, in my work, day-to-day work, I was focusing on networking, server administration, user support. I was an all-rounder because we were very few in the IT department. But at the same time, I was looking at opportunities of growth for my career and the passion that I had. And that is when I landed on online marketing. We used to say online marketing back then. Yes. Then I started to see vast opportunities in Zimbabwe and beyond on how I can, grow my career, or rather divert my career. To me, it was a career diversion. I did not do any digital marketing at college, but I started reading more on these opportunities. What is digital marketing? How can it be utilized by people in Zimbabwe to grow their careers or to grow their businesses? Then I had, in researching, I had a vision to say, okay, if I am to start a trust which is going to equip women and youth to learn digital marketing. At first, it was just digital marketing. What can I achieve? I still remember my first training on digital marketing was done by a Zimbabwean based in the UK. He had called for people to apply so that he trains us. And when we started, we were 20. But when we finished the program, we were 2. Wow. Because a lot of people...
90% dropout.
Yes. A lot of people didn't understand the opportunity that was there in the digital space. But I had understood that the moment that I'm going to learn and implement what I've learned, I can actually start my organization and run it successfully.
And these people, were they paying to learn?
We paid $20. $20
if you go to, for the whole 6 months?
Yes, for the whole 6 months. That's it. But if you go to the website of the person that was training us, his charge is £980. Wow. In the UK. So to me, it was like, huge at $20, this is an opportunity. Yeah. And I took it, I ran with it until now. So after that, I decided to build my personal brand online using LinkedIn and Facebook, showcasing what I'm now passionate about. And it was not an easy journey, because the moment you are very public, people will think you are looking for something else which is not business. Some might think you're looking for men, some might think you're looking for favors, some might think you are going crazy. I think that it was a moment where I then asked myself whether this is something that I should pursue or not, right? Because there were a lot of misconceptions around my building this personal brand called Tofara Chokera. But because I knew I wanted to capture the attention of a lot of women, I had to do it anyway. I started training women for free on WhatsApp. That was where I started.
In a group?
In a group, yes, in a WhatsApp group. I started telling them, you know what, I've learned this thing called digital marketing. Would you want to hear about it, so that maybe you use it for the growth of your business or for the growth of your career? If you want to pursue a career in digital marketing, come, let me train you. So when I trained people, I still remember my first class had 4 people. I trained them. I, followed up on what they had implemented. I had 2 success stories. I posted those stories online. The next class had 20 people, and the classes grew over time. So the stories
this was back when?
Back in 2017.
2017.
Yes, 2017.
And today they're ongoing, the classes?
Yes.
And how big is the class today?
Let me tell you gradually the story so that you understand the growth. So in 2019, because I was now training a lot of people and they were giving me their success stories, I was posting my success stories online. And I didn't bother who was reading or who was not reading my posts, but I was identified by a German-based company called AfroLink, which had launched entrepreneurship course under a website called Factory 24. It was an e-learning platform. They'd launched an e-learning platform and recruited less than 50 people in 9 African countries. So they saw my profile and the work that I was doing and the numbers that I was sharing, that I had trained, and said, you know what, we want to partner with you so that you lead entrepreneurship training in Zimbabwe.
So Tofara, I'm going to ask you to hold that thought. We're going to take a short commercial break and we'll be back.
Okay.
Faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe. Faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe.
And welcome back to the Phoenix Podcast Show. Tofara, you were telling the story of going from 4 to 20, then the big guns from Germany arrive. Take us.
Yes, sure. So AfroLink had developed an e-learning platform called Factory 24, and they had launched it in 9 African countries. And in those 9 African countries, they had less than 50 registrations. So because I had created a huge following on my WhatsApp groups, I went through, they approached me and said, you know what, we have this course, we would like you to implement and lead this course in Zimbabwe. So I went through the course and realized that, okay, I'm giving people one aspect of business, that is digital marketing. But in terms of the whole entrepreneurship course, I'm not giving them that. So I then encouraged them to enroll. And guess what? In one day, we recruited 750 people.
In one day?
Yes.
In Zimbabwe?
In Zimbabwe, from my WhatsApp groups.
Amazing.
And it was a record to them. I still remember their servers crashed because, there were a lot
Crashed
of people.
the German service.
Yes, there were a lot of people registering and starting to learn. That gave me an opportunity to realize that the impact that I'm making is not small, but rather big. And I was funded to go to Germany just to speak on how I'm making impact on WhatsApp.
Wow.
So during that time, we were in Berlin, we attended the AfroLink conference, and we had a tour to take companies in Berlin. We visited Facebook, Instagram, we went to Airbus, where aeroplanes are assembled. We visited innovation hubs. It was my first time being in Europe, so you can imagine the excitement. But at the end of the day, I learned a lot and then discovered that when it comes to technology and its adoption back home, we are still very far. So if I can go back home and implement one or two things that I've learned, I can actually sell through. So that trip was my eye-opener, and it was sort of solidifying my vision of making sure people learn about tech. You know, at a young age, giving women more opportunities to learn about technology. And I came back home, created an 8-module course on digital marketing. Then I started again training on WhatsApp. During the COVID-19 pandemic...
And it's still $20?
It was $10.
10, it's gone less. Okay.
Yes, $10. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, that's when the course was going for $10, right? I discovered that everyone is at home. So a lot of people were trying to look for what they can do. And for the whole year in 2020, I would not have less than 200 students per month in my WhatsApp group trainings.
On the various modules?
Yes, on the various modules. So from there, I continued to share success stories. And at some point, I asked 10 people to say, okay, I've trained you during the COVID-19 pandemic, and I'm looking for 10 people who have success stories. I want to send a videographer to record your story. I received heartwarming testimonies, you know, from training from that season. Then I posted it online. Then in 2021, the International Trade Center, World Trade Organization, had a call where we would, you know, apply to be awarded for the things that we are doing in Zimbabwe, for the impact that we are doing in Zimbabwe. And we were awarded what we called digital champions for small businesses.
Congratulations.
And it was a program that was sponsored by Google and Zoom. That was the first international recognition for our program. And after that, we were also then identified by the International Telecommunications Union, their section called the Equals Hub, which focuses on giving women equal opportunities to learn about tech. So because our programs were more affecting or impacting women, we were selected as leaders in SMEs as well. And I went to Switzerland to collect that award.
That was in 22 now?
Yes, in 2022. That was in 2022. So that made me, when I went to Switzerland, when they were actually looking at the work that we were doing in Zimbabwe and the impact that we had done so far, it made me realize that I myself is not seeing the impact, you know, because maybe people closer to me are not even telling me or wowing me and saying, you know what, you're doing a great job. So at some point you start doubting yourself, you start doubting if everything is making sense. But the international community was seeing the work and they were
seeing the light shine.
Yes, 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 yes. So to me, it gave me the strength to really pursue.
So tell me, Tofara, how are you surviving? Have you left employment now at this stage?
Yes.
So tell us, go back to that. How did you leave your job and take the risk? And how do you then make this a sustainable, profit-generating business to pay for, you know, yourself?
Okay, okay. So I left my full-time job in 2021. It was the most painful decision that I had to make. But I was ready for it. It took me about 3 years working on my exit strategy. Remember, I was gainfully employed in Zimbabwe.
Well paid, you said?
Yes, well paid, well paid. And I knew that leaving my full-time job will affect a lot of things, and I had to write everything down that would go wrong. In terms of the income, remember, I was looking at going to run an organization which I feel was doing well, at that time, and I knew that, okay, I would have a certain income. So I worked on my exit strategy. I worked on paying out our mortgages, making sure that I don't have any debt with anyone, because I didn't know what the future holds.
You may have no more income.
Yeah, but my main factor of going full-time into running the organization was to be with my family, and from there strategizing on how to grow the organization. Yes, it was stable, but I was also looking at, I will grow this organization and most probably have time with my family as well, which I didn't have when I was full-time employed. So the exit strategy helped me to understand the risks of running an organization full-time and not being employed, which means at some point I would go broke. And to tell you the truth...
And potentially fail.
Yes, and
most
potentially
startups fail.
Yes. So at one point, I asked myself why I left my job. Because 90% of the things that I thought would go right went wrong. And at some point, I couldn't quit as well, because I was saying, even if I stop now, what will I do? Should I go back to the job market and look for a job? And looking at the Zimbabwe employment situation, I wanted to get the job that I would say, okay, this is the job that I really want. Maybe that is equal to the job that I left.
So having that insecurity in your mind, look into the camera there and tell the audience, what made you decide to leave your job?
Okay, so to me, the organization was not a job. It is a call. It is my calling. It is my calling to see women change their narrative through learning, technology, and understanding the opportunities that come through the digital space and the digital economy. Before I left my full-time job, I had fear in me and whatever would go wrong, you know. And that's when I discovered that fear is a substance. So whenever I thought of leaving my job, I would hear a substance moving from my belly to out. You know, that was fear in me. That was the fear that I had. But because I had prayed about it, there was a time that I would ask God to give me direction and tell me when it is the right time to leave. And I still remember I got a vision when I was at work. And that was the day I thought this was going to be, it was my answer to say it's the time to leave.
So you had a clear answer from God?
Yes.
An answer to prayer. He gave you a clear impression, a vision.
Yes.
You knew exactly this is the time.
But I also knew that it was not going to be an easy journey from what I had seen. It was not going to be an easy journey, but I knew that one day I'll pick gold and silver and ornaments.
But I think there's diamonds in your eyes there as well. So let's go back to the revenue model of the business. So,
okay, so
how in 2021 when it started, how did you see the revenue model working? And what's happened from then to date, the kind of funding? I heard you got funding in France.
Yes.
How's that funding assisting that revenue model, and how do you see that working in the future?
Okay, so we have 3 revenue models. One is paid trainings, where people or organizations pay for trainings around digital marketing. Then I am also a consultant. I do consultancy jobs for local and international organizations. And at one point, I had a contract with the United Nations as well. Then we also have the grant-funded trainings as well. And we're actually looking at working on other sustainable revenue models, because we wouldn't then focus more on grants.
Right.
Yeah,
because you're not sure when they will come in and how often.
Yes.
So if you were to look at the 3 or the 2 primary ones, the paid training and the consulting, what percentage do you think is coming from each?
So for the paid trainings, because I wanted to be a sustainable revenue stream, we're focusing, right now we're at 70%. 70% of our money comes from paid trainings. Then for consultancy, I can say 20%. Then
that's great.
Yeah.
So you're not at any risk.
Pardon?
You're not at any risk because if the grant wasn't to come, the business
Yes.
model is sustainable.
Yes.
And in terms of the paid training, how much is corporate versus individual?
So corporates depend. Do you want me to say the figures?
Or just maybe the numbers or the percentages, whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, so with corporates, we usually use the rates that they give us,
Okay.
which is quite a good amount.
It's higher than the individual, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's higher than the individual. Then for the individual trainings, we also have the ones that are very cheap, the $10 for the workshops, the $20. But this is more like our bulk trainings, where we just give people the foundation
Okay.
of understanding.
So it's more basic.
Yes, it's basic training. Then we are in partnership with Nicolina Kobali. She is the only platinum partner for Digital Marketing Institute. So we also sell courses on her behalf. The minimum for a diploma in digital marketing is going for $1,250
Okay.
at the moment.
$1,250.
Yes, yes.
And how long
yes,
is
yes.
that program?
It's 6 months.
6 months. So $200 a month.
Yes, yes.
So still,
yes.
it's affordable. It's not
Yes.
going to bankrupt anyone.
No, it's not going to. Yeah, it's not going to.
So tell me if I wanted to do a skill not in digital marketing, let's say I wanted to be a software engineer or I wanted to learn some other online skill, would I be able to do that through you or not?
Yes, some of them, because currently we are introducing more courses which are not necessarily digital marketing. We have partnered with trainers around website development, software development, and currently we have launched actually the Women in AI initiative, but we are also partnering with other trainers around artificial intelligence because we see that it's one of the
It's coming.
most rising skills that most people need here. Then we also then recommend other courses that we know being offered by other universities like the ALX University, which is offering software development courses. Some are fully funded courses.
Zero cost.
Yes, yes,
Amazing.
yes. And also for some people that do not have money at the moment, but they want to learn, we encourage them also to do massive open online courses as a start, learn for free using Coursera or Allison, just to get an appreciation before they then invest in, paying a lot of fees for such courses.
So in this last minute before the next commercial break, tell us about this French funding. What did it do? How much was it? What impact did it have?
Okay, so we got a grant from Digital Africa. It was 45,000
US dollars.
Yes,
Significant.
for the 6 months that we were training 50 people in digital marketing. But like I said, we were grooming them into 7 professions, which included website development, social media managers, content creators, digital marketing strategists, and affiliate marketers. So we partnered with experts in digital marketing who were part of our trainers, and we also recruited for the projects, the people that administer the project and so on. And we recruited 50 students because that is the number that we had said we can afford to train in the 6 months. So we recruited 50 students and 58% were ladies.
Wow.
And
These are all university students.
we had a stretch from people who had Form 4
Okay.
only up to people who were unemployed but had degrees.
Right.
But their professions were in line with digital marketing.
So let's hold that thought and go to this break. Thank you.
Okay.
Faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe. Faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe.
And we're back. So take us from the French. They've given you 50,000 almost dollars, 50 people.
Yes.
You're training them for 6 months.
Yes.
Students from high school, kind of Form 4 up to university graduates without jobs. How long did it take to really get them into employment? How many of them have been employed? When did they graduate? Did all of them graduate?
Yes, all of them graduated. So what we did was we understood the call for Digital Africa to equip youth in Africa with digital skills and place them in jobs.
And place them in jobs.
Yes.
I like that, right? So it's not just teaching them, but
No,
it's
not about
giving them the
teaching.
ability to feed themselves.
Yes, yes. So what we then did was we put out a call for unemployed youth in Zimbabwe, and we had a number of applications. I think from from this cohort, we had more than 400 students applying, but unfortunately we just could train 50 according to the resources
And
that
in your
we
opinion,
had.
all 400 would have been...
Yes,
they
that's
would have
how
graduated.
hungry. That's how hungry our youth are, and that's how they are unemployed as well. So we recruited the 50, and these were people we like who had O-level certificates, who did not have an opportunity to go to college because of financial constraints from their families. We have got students from Bare and Epworth. Very brilliant students, and we took them. They're doing very well, and one of them is actually now employed by Econet, just by having the skill that we gave them as a digital marketer.
Amazing.
So we then also made sure that we partnered with TrueMark HR consultants for placements, because our organization does not focus on placements. So we knew that we needed a company that had relationships with potential employers. So we trained them. We then said, okay, TrueMark, we have these students. These are now their area of expertise. Can you help us look for jobs on behalf of them? So currently we are at 68% job placements.
68%?
Yes.
Are you serious?
Our KPI is 70%.
That is amazing. Congratulations.
But I'm looking
Wow.
at also making sure that we get to around 90. But the good part is some of the students that we then had are not more of the I want employment type of students. They are now actually freelancing. They opened their profiles on Fiverr. They are getting jobs on Fiverr. And some are just doing random consultancy as well. And, to us, it's a form of employment.
It's entrepreneurship. They're not waiting around.
Yes. So what we then did with the HR consultant as well, we had to do what we call a job fair and placement event, where we had Harare Institute of Technology also partnering with us to give us their innovation center, where we hosted a number of companies in Zimbabwe who were potential recruiters for our students. So it was more of creating that environment where potential employers meet our students. They create a relationship that is then cultivated for them to be placed in those jobs. I think that is why we also got the good results that we wanted in terms of placements. Currently, we also have students who then partnered, to form a startup. And I was actually amazed. They're now focusing on renewable energy and solutions for marginalized communities when it comes to power, and they are marketing their organization online using the skills that we train them. And they were selected for the Total Energies, startup competition. And to us, it became more than just training them for employment, but they understood that they can also create employment for the other youth.
That's empowerment.
Yeah, so we are grateful to our partners, Digital Africa. The fund went a long way, and I'm very much sure that in 2025, we are going to go into other provinces around Zimbabwe. We are looking at 6 provinces in 2025. So that is what we have been working for, and we're also looking for more partners, because the harvest is plenty in Zimbabwe.
Well, vive la France, and if you're watching, please, we need your money. France, keep sending it here. There's lots of work to be done.
Exactly.
So we're down to the last 10 minutes, Tofara,
Yes.
and I wish we had more time because there's so much more to speak about. But I want you to kind of wrap up the business side and just, I'm a numbers man. I'm a man of the future. And I look towards, in my immediate goals, 2050. But I look beyond that, you know, the next generation. So if you were to tell us, share with us, if you don't mind, how many of you trained to date, people? What is your goal for next year, for 2025, in terms of numbers? And if you were to look at your 10, 20, and even 30-year goals, where do you want to be? So in 2050, take us there.
Okay. So from 2017 to date, I was looking at our statistics. We have trained 12,550.
Makoro Koto.
Yes,
That is
it's
amazing.
quite a huge number. It's quite a huge number. So going forward, depending on the resources and funds that we have, we are looking at least at training 5,000 people every year from now until 2030. And sorry, my mind.
That's okay.
went
While you're
blank.
thinking about that, that's people out there. That's almost 1 million people.
Yes.
What she's
Yes.
just said. 1 million people.
I had a sentence that was lined and I forgot that
It will
sentence.
come back.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so should I continue?
yes, please.
Okay. So going forward, we are looking at 1,000 a year. Is that the number that I spoke about?
5,000.
5,000.
5,000.
Okay. So we are looking at training 5,000 students a year. And this is going to be including mentorship and coaching for students that are coming from universities, unemployed, but they want to know how they can become employable through learning an extra digital skill. And this will not be focused on any specific field. If you're in human resources, you need to learn AI, maybe for AI-based recruitment. If you are into finance, you learn fintech. If you are into education, edtech. So we want to come up with programs that are also going to equip anyone with a digital skill to make them employable.
So 5,000 a year, almost 30 years ahead. We're talking of 150,000 people.
Yes.
How do they pay it forward now, Tofara? What is your plan to help those people, you know, from a minimum investment, $10, they've now got jobs, most of them. You're saying you're going to get to 90% job placement.
Yes.
We're talking about hundreds of millions of US dollars of revenue from those 150,000 people.
Yes.
Hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue.
Yes, true.
How are they going to pay it forward? And what are you going to do to encourage them to either join a network or do something?
We do have, for the Talent for Startups, we have a network for the alumni, which we want to encourage the alumni to reinvest back to make sure that more people get access to the same program that they had. I believe that there are so many opportunities that are aligned for the students that have finished, and once they get money or any other resources, they can plow back into the organization as well.
So my challenge to you and to them is to take $10 from your first month's paycheck when you get a job and sponsor one person.
Yes.
Because then the 150,000 will become 300,000.
Yes, yes. And one of my desire, Ken, is to have an innovation hub that houses mostly women and youth to learn tech. Like I said, when I went to Germany, I visited a number of tech hubs, and I learned a lot. Here in Zimbabwe, I actually housed at the 825 Innovation Hub, and my desire is to also set up such a big, innovation hub where people have the liberty to come in, tell us what they want to pursue in terms of tech careers. We guide them, we give them resources, we take them through training, and we leave them running. So that is my desire. One day I am going to call you to officially open the hub. I don't know.
Hopefully we'll be opening it together because I'm going to talk to our friends at ZimWorks, but we'll take that offline.
It's fine.
So we've got just over 5 minutes left. I really want to get into this important subject. If I look at your accolades, so I'm just going to read a few here. 2023 World Government Summit Speaker in Dubai. 2022 Lightning Speaker. I don't know what that is. What is a Lightning Speaker at the United Nations? Is that an important speaker?
Yes.
CAMESA Federation of Women in Business board member. I just looked through this list, awarded United Nations to exhibit at the 7th Annual Forum on SDGs, the STI Forum. You mentioned the award that you got in Equals Tech Leadership. You were awarded the champion at the International Trade Center. You're a 2023 Tech Woman Fellow from the United States of America. There's a lot of accolades and awards that have already come to you, and I'm sure when we project over the next 10 or 20 years, more are coming.
Yes.
How do you remain humble in that situation, and how do you not let things like this get to your head? But more importantly, you mentioned your faith. Would you share some of your beliefs and how important that is to you in your life?
Sure. There was a moment that I was down in terms of motivation because I was meeting a lot of problems in running the organization. But I also got hold of a book written by Bishop T.D. Jakes called Crushing, God Turns Pressure into Power.
Powerful.
Yeah. So in that book, he was mentioning that a lot of times we often hear the good stories, the testimonials, but we don't get to hear what people go through to get to where they are. And he was sharing his personal experiences on how he came from humble beginnings and how he is now. You can look at how he has managed to build empires. So what I've seen is if you are to have a good career or a business which is flourishing, the experiences that you go through, the harsh conditions, people walking away from you, you know, it's something that will make you remain humble and stay in God's presence. I'm one person who always say if you're to have money and you don't have God's covering or God's presence around you, you can actually lose focus and go broke, like you have never established something meaningful. So what I usually remember is, okay, I started from low beginnings. The journey is not easy, but God turns pressure into power. That is what keeps me humble and focusing on making impact and changing people's lives.
It is so beautiful. You know, the crushing pressure that brings you strength. We look at the pressure of a carbon, simple carbon in the ground over millions of years, and it becomes a diamond.
Yes.
We look at pearls being formed in the mollusk, aggravating the muscle of the shell.
True.
And we look at the refining of precious minerals like gold with huge amounts of temperature.
Yes.
So if you were to look at T.D. Jakes as saying, he talks about 3 categories of people in your life. Comrades, they run with you when you're in the race.
Yes.
Your constituents, who like to see you winning, and as long as you're winning, they're there for you. But when you either out the race, your comrades have gone, or you lose the race, the constituents are gone.
Yes.
And the last category is confidants. And he says if you have just 5, like one handful of people, it's a lot in your life.
Yes.
Who are some of your confidants, and how do you reflect back on your own mother and what she means to you and how that's helped you in your life?
Okay. So my mom, I can say she is one of my pillars, the one who prays for me. My mom doesn't understand anything about technology, but she always says, whatever you're doing, go and do it, go and win, you know. So she has been my pillar of strength. When I need prayers, she has been my go-to person. And then in terms of confidence, just knowing that God is there with you in your vision, just knowing that even if you meet problems, God will never change. That is what makes me confident about this vision about Tofara Online Trust.
Thank you, Tofara.
Thank you.
We're going to bring it to a close on that, but before we do, what message would you like to tell the audience today? If you could give them one sentence in a few words, what would you like to say to them? Please speak to your followers.
You have all it takes. You have got the ability to change your life, to change the lives of people around you. You've got all it takes. All it takes.
Simple and straight to the point. You've got all that you need. All it takes, you've got. Just go for it. Go for the opportunity. It's Tofara's first time sharing her story tonight here on the Phoenix podcast, and we've been blessed by her presence, and I'm sure she's going to be back. Thank you very much, and good evening. Like this, pay it forward it, tell your friends. Thank you for supporting us.
faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe.